Welcome to the I Told My Story channel. I'm Lila, and this is my second episode of my story. Lila, after seeing what was written in the notebook, quickly grabbed her phone and called the girls. Girls, you need to come to my place right now. It's urgent. I can't wait, she said anxiously. Ivy paused for a moment on the phone before asking, What now? Lila, what did you do this time? You'll see when you get here. Hurry up, she said, ending the call. A while later, Mila and Ivy entered Lila's room. Lila pointed to the open notebook on her desk. The two of them took one look at it and stepped back in shock. How is it even possible? Mila asked. The last time, didn't we throw this into the sea? Yes, but here it is, Lila replied. How are we going to get rid of this curse? Ivy turned to Lila angrily. You're the one who's got us into this mess. Why did you take that notebook in the first place? Lila immediately retorted. As if it's my fault? If you hadn't taken us to the antique shop, none of this would have happened. At that moment, Mila intervened. Then let's end this where it started. We'll take the notebook back to the antique shop. Lila thought for a moment and nodded. That's a great idea. Let's go right now before it closes. At the antique shop, Lila approached the counter with the notebook in her hand. Excuse me, we bought this notebook from you, but I don't like it. I'd like to return it, she said. The elderly man squinted at Lila and pointed to a sign hanging on the wall behind him. The girls turned to look at the sign. No returns or refunds. Lila hesitated but didn't give up. I don't want the money. Just take it back, she insisted. The elderly man glanced briefly at the notebook and shook his head. No, the shop is closing. Please leave, he said firmly. Without saying another word, the girls left the shop. Outside, Lila spoke up. I don't know why he didn't take the notebook back, but I think he knows something and isn't telling us, Mila asked in a worried voice. So what do we do now? Lila shrugged. I'll keep it at my place tonight, then we'll take turns keeping it. Both Ivy and Mila reluctantly agreed, saying simultaneously, All right. The next morning, when Lila woke up and looked at her desk, she saw the notebook open again. She glanced at the writing. Lila will experience something unexpected today. She froze in place for a moment. Something unexpected? What does that even mean? She muttered to herself. In the school hallway, Ivy and Mila approached her. What's the notebook saying now? Mila asked curiously. Lila took a deep breath. It says I'll experience something unexpected today. Ivy raised an eyebrow. Unexpected? Like what? I don't know, Lila replied nervously. But I have an exam now. We'll talk later. Waving briefly at the girls, she rushed off. As she turned the corner, she couldn't slow down in time and collided with the principal. Both of them fell to the floor, and Lila's pained scream echoed through the hallway. At the hospital, Lila was sitting on a stretcher with her arm wrapped in a bandage. Ivy and Mila approached her. Get well soon, Lila, Mila said in a sorrowful voice. It's no big deal, Lila replied. It's just a minor fracture, and I can still use my hand. Turning to Ivy, she asked, You're taking the notebook tonight, right? Ivy grimaced reluctantly. Of course, I'll take it. When Ivy woke up the next morning and looked at the notebook on her desk, she saw the writing. Ivy will be very surprised today. In the cafeteria, Mila and Lila were sipping their coffees when Ivy joined them. Mila immediately asked, So what does it say this time? It says I'll be very surprised today, Ivy said. Lila smirked. Let's see. The surprises in this notebook never end. Mila shrugged. But it's hard to say they're good surprises. After school, as the girls were leaving through the front door, Asher suddenly appeared in front of them. Ivy, we need to talk, he said. Ivy gave him a cold glare. No, we don't. There's nothing to talk about. Lila quickly intervened, grabbing Ivy's arm. Wait, don't say no. This is a big opportunity. You haven't given the notebook to Mila yet, have you? Ivy looked confused. I forgot. I'll give it to her now, she said. Lila shook her head. No, don't. Give it to Asher. Tell him to write down everything he did to you in it. Maybe say you'll forgive him if he does. That way, we can get rid of the notebook. Ivy stared at Asher for a moment and finally handed him the notebook. Take it. Write down everything you did. Maybe I'll forgive you. Asher took the notebook eagerly and nodded. Okay, I'll write it. I promise. Later that evening, Ivy returned to her room. When she looked at her desk, she saw the notebook was back. Oh my God, it's here again, she said in shock. Just then, her phone rang. It was Asher. Ivy, the notebook was on my desk. I was going to write in it, but I went to the kitchen to grab some coffee, and when I came back, it was gone. I'm so sorry, he said. Ivy took a deep breath and snapped. It's over. Do you understand? Over. Before hanging up the phone, Ivy angrily called Lila. As soon as the phone was answered, she began speaking. Lila, that cursed notebook is back here. I've had enough. I don't want this stupid notebook anymore. I don't want to know anything about the future. Come and take this cursed thing and get rid of it at the antique shop, she said firmly. Lila was silent for a moment, then sighed. You're right. I'm the one who dragged you into all of this. I'm coming, she said, ending the call. Lila went to the antique shop and slammed the notebook on the counter. She turned to the elderly man. You're taking this notebook back, she said firmly. The elderly man looked at her with a puzzled expression. Why? He asked. Lila rolled her eyes. You know why. We can't get rid of this cursed thing. Take it back, she insisted. The elderly man shook his head calmly. No, he said. Lila, now desperate, pleaded. Please, please take it back. The elderly man stared at her for a moment, then took a deep breath. Your fears, he said. Lila looked at him in confusion. What does that mean? She asked. The elderly man silently turned away and began tidying up the counter. Please leave, he said firmly. Back in her room, Lila sat quietly, deep in thought. The words in the notebook and everything that had happened played over and over in her mind. Suddenly, she stood up and exclaimed, Of course! She muttered to herself, What was my biggest fear? Losing my grandmother's necklace. Ivy's biggest fear was being cheated on. Mila's was something happening to her family. So this notebook feeds on our fears. Grabbing her phone, she quickly called Ivy and Mila. Girls, come over right now. I think I found a way to get rid of the notebook, she said. When Ivy and Mila entered the room, they saw the notebook on the desk. I think I figured it out, girls. I might know how to get rid of the notebook, Lila said. Ivy asked in astonishment. How? How do we do it? Lila handed a pen to Ivy. Take this pen and write what I tell you. I am Ivy, and I am not afraid of you. Hesitating, Ivy took the pen and wrote on the page, I am Ivy, and I am not afraid of you. Immediately, the writing on the notebook's page vanished. The girls stared at each other in wide-eyed shock. Lila quickly turned to Mila. Your turn. Come on, write the same thing. Mila took the pen, took a deep breath, and wrote, I'm Mila, and I'm not afraid of you. Once again, the writing disappeared instantly as the girls stared at the notebook in disbelief. Lila took the pen herself. It's my turn, girls, she said. Lila wrote, I am Lila, and I am not afraid of you. The writing disappeared once more. At that moment, the notebook lifted off the desk and began spinning in the air before suddenly vanishing. For a moment, the girls stared at each other, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Then all at once, they hugged each other tightly. A week later, the three girls were standing outside the shop. I'm so excited, Lila said. It's been a week, and that notebook hasn't come back. But could it be in that box? Ivy muttered nervously. I'm curious too. I hope nothing bad happens to us. Lila, unable to hold back, said, Let's go in. I'm dying of curiosity. And then they walked into the shop together. Inside, Lila suddenly stopped and turned to the girls. Shh! Asher and his girlfriend are here, she whispered. Ivy rolled her eyes. Of course, since I wouldn't give him a chance, he immediately went to that girl, she said sarcastically. At that moment, Asher's girlfriend opened a box in the shop and pulled out the notebook, showing it to him. Asher, I'm getting this. It looks so old and interesting, she said. The girls froze in place, staring at each other in disbelief. Lila turned her gaze to the elderly man at the counter. He winked at her. Lila responded with a faint smile. The notebook was no longer theirs. We've reached the end of this week's story. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss our new story next week. Bye!